Welcome, movie fans. Thanks for joining us for episode 75 of Reading Between the Reels. If you're a new listener, we're so glad you found us. And if you've been enjoying the show, please tell someone about us. Send a tweet, post to Facebook, write a review in your favorite podcast catcher, or just recommend the show to a friend. I'm Craig Dickinson. I'm joined as always by my co-hosts Corey Heitschmidt and Justin Eldon. How's it going, guys? Long time no chat.
It has been fantastic trying to dust off the cobwebs on everything for the summer pick-me-up and let's get going, and stuff's not working. But now we're back. We're back.
Justin.
Yeah, so all three of us are teachers. So we are currently on summer break, and we still have, like, summer break brain. So you're just going to have to bear with us as, like, our vocab ramps up to regular levels.
It's true. Yeah, we haven't been talking nearly as frequently as we usually do for the 9 months.
I've been talking much more just to people under the age of 10. So
sure, you got that going. So today on the show, we're discussing our top 5 favorite movies from summer 2023. Yes. And just as a disclaimer, at time of recording, none of us have seen Blue Beetle. That will be out by the time this episode drops, but we've not seen that yet because we have yet to been invited to premieres. So Warner Brothers, we're listing. We're ready to go whenever you want to do that.
But you're darn right. I am available for all premieres. I will get a sub for my classroom in a heartbeat.
Oh, wait, you guys didn't get an invite to that premiere?
Dang it.
That's really awkward. See, I got a +1, but I wasn't going to bring any of you. So
we're not talking about that. That might be great. I've heard good things so far. The early reviews are pretty good, but that will not be mentioned tonight. But we are going to talk first off about our top 5 summer movies from this last summer, 2023. And we're going to start with Justin. He's going to give us his number 5.
So, least favorite of the top 5. I might be the only person on the internet that really enjoyed Secret Invasion. I thought it was great. It had its obvious flaws. I wish it totally would have done more with the scroll. But coming off of other Marvel properties that I wasn't as happy about, I feel like this one was a little bit more grounded than the rest, if you take out the finale. But for the most part, I was pretty happy about it. As a guy that really likes Winter Soldier, probably my favorite MCU movie to date, it felt grounded like the Winter Soldier. Things weren't getting crazy. It was just some good, like, government, political, espionage-esque stuff. And it was just fun. I was excited from week to week.
So because it's MCU related, I'll allow it. But let me ask you this as a follow-up. Do you think it would have been better as a 2.5 hour movie versus the 30 to 50 minute episodes?
No, I don't. Yeah. I mean, there was, like, admittedly a lot of fluff. And like I said, I really would have liked to see them do more with the scrolls. I really would have liked to see more of, like, scrolls implanted that in places that we didn't know, like big surprises. Like, I don't want any, like, huge surprise, like, oh my goodness, Tony Stark's been a scroll since first episode or first movie. I don't want that. But I just don't feel like they did a whole lot with it. And maybe they could have cut some of that out in a movie. But I think a lot of shows have been that recently. I think we've talked a little bit about the Obi-Wan show would have been much better as a movie,
right?
As well.
Okay, fair. So Corey, what is your number 5?
This is tough. Because I feel like I have 5 solid movies here, and on any given day, I could rearrange a couple of these movies. But I'm going to say my number 5, coming in at number 5, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
That's number 5?
Okay,
number
wow.
5.
Oh.
I'm putting that as my least. But here's the thing. This is a solid top 5 list. I mean, we're talking 99, 98, 97, 96 as far as, like, I'm on board with this show. The thing about Spider-Man that absolutely drove me crazy is because I stayed away from spoilers. I stayed away from everything. I went opening night with my kids. I did not know it was a 2-parter. I didn't even look at the poster. I watching the movie, and then I get to the end where there's this wrap up and Gwen's talking, and I'm like, dang, man, this movie's, this has got to be wrapping up in like 5 minutes because wow, they're really gonna hit the climax hard, and boom, we're done with the movie. And then all of a sudden it goes to be continued. And I was so mad. I was in the theater. I was like, what? I was so mad. And I had no idea. I didn't look at the poster. I was caught off guard. I didn't know it was a part 1 and a part 2. Because I'll tell you this, if I had known that it was a part 2, a 2-parter, I would not have gone opening night. I would not have been like, oh man, I got to go see this and keep going with the story. I would have been like, well, I mean, I'm going to have to wait for the second half of the story. So who cares if I watch it in the theater or if I watch it at home? I mean, other than the movie experience, which is great. But so anyway, that's why I'm putting them at number 5. They disappointed. They broke my heart.
That was because I don't think I intentionally stayed away from spoilers or anything, but I did not know it was a 2-part. And I did the exact same thing right at the very end. As like Spot is seemingly increasing in power, I'm just like, that's a weird thing to do right before the final battle. No, we gotta have the final. This is gonna be a short final battle. And then it ends. What the? Yeah. My word! I was so happy though that so ever since the '90s Spider-Man cartoon, Spot, which I guess I'd forgotten his name was Spot, has been like, I loved him as a kid. I thought his power was so cool. And then Portal came out as I got a little bit older. Portal, the video game. I just thought that power was the coolest thing ever, and then for them to include it in here in such a cool way, and then kind of play it off as a joke as well at the same time, like I was excited to have him as the villain.
The thing about that movie, because I agree with you, it was done so well in the cartoon. It's so difficult because you see a character like that you love, and you think, oh man, this guy would make a great villain or something to bring in other than just the Green Goblin. Or I don't know that would have been quite as good as a live action versus a cartoon. Maybe I'm wrong there, but I feel like, well, they did it with Doctor Strange, the portals and things like that, and how they reach through and it works, but it's so quick on Spider-Verse, and it's drawn so well and so fast, and I feel like you can get a little bit more punchline and elongated arms, and they don't have to be and so I feel like you can get a little bit more leeway in that as a cartoon character versus a real live action character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, my number 5 is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which I was pleasantly surprised by because I love the character. We're going to do Raiders of the Lost Ark as a film like very soon. I'm thinking when the 5-disc collection comes out, we should definitely talk about that film because it's a perfect film in my opinion. I love that character, and I've enjoyed all the movies. The first 3 movies are essentially perfect in my opinion, especially the first one and the third one. I enjoy the 4th one immensely, except for the monkeys. So I was cautiously optimistic about this one, really wanted to like it, and I waited quite a while to see it. And I think really it was, Corey, I think it was your opinion that pushed me over the edge, where you're like, oh man, it's so good. And went with my family and my father-in-law, who had, that was sentimental too, because my wife had gone with her dad when she was a little kid. And so there was that element too. And I have to say most of the audience was older, which was kind of interesting. Like when you go to a summer movie, like it's typically kids and whatever, but there was like a lot of people my age and much older, like senior citizens even. But they all had a good time. And like, I mean, it wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. And I think especially the music for me, the John Williams score pushed it over the top. I really, really loved the callbacks, especially Marion's theme, and some other things that just, it was fun. It did what it needed to do. It wasn't great, but it was good.
So off the cuff, rank Indiana Jones movies.
I don't want to. Raiders.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Raiders, Holy Grail, Temple of Doom, and then I'd probably go 4 and then 5, Crystal Skull, and then this one.
What?
And I don't know if they're like, but I think like 1 and 3 are like basically the same tier. I would say they're pretty close, but I still think the first 3 are.
I'm gonna jump in here. I'm gonna piggyback this because you just took my number 2. This was my number 2 movie right here. Okay, this was it.
Oh,
this was number 2 for me. But I'm going to tell you the thing I was thinking about, and I've done some research here as far as like thinking in my own head. Indiana Jones. You know what I liked about this movie, and because I really, really liked Indiana Jones. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was better than Kingdom of Crystal Skull. If he was not in this one, like let's say if it's just like the first one, it's a callback to if Indiana Jones was not in the Raiders of the Lost Ark, everything that happened in the movie would have happened exactly how it had to. He had no effect on the outcome whatsoever.
Oh.
And I feel like it would have been the exact same thing on this one.
Oh, but we've talked about that. That's not true because if he doesn't show, they don't get the. They follow him to Marion to get the headpiece.
They would have found it eventually.
No, I had no idea.
Exactly the same.
It would have gone worse because they would have just, even if they did find it, then they would have just put the Ark on the airplane and Hitler would have had it. And it would have gone very bad if he doesn't stop them.
Open it anyway. And so then the other guy, he was in it. He was in it. And then in this one, and same thing. If Indiana Jones hadn't time traveled back, all those guys that were Nazis would have just been shot down by all the soldiers in the war, in the little Persian War they were having, and he would have crashed into the sea, and that'd be the end of that. So, I mean, it was pretty amazing. I thought it was, but I absolutely loved it. In my head, it made sense. I was like, it's going back to the first one, that kind of mentality. I loved Indiana Jones. I thought old Harrison Ford did it great. I couldn't see anybody else taking over the mantle. The chase scene was great. You know what I really thought was amazing was when he went into the artifacts room to get the part of the dial, and there's all these things in there, and it makes me look and say, that's Indiana Jones. Here's an entire room filled with artifacts and adventures that Indiana Jones has had, that were not movies that would be great to see. Like that could have been made movies if we were making movies, but anyway, okay. I thought it was great. I loved it.
Well, I disagree that he didn't have any effect on it, but I need to see the movie more to be able to refute that. Raiders, we'll have that conversation when we watch Raiders for sure. We'll have the protracted conversation, but we'll put a pin in that for now. So, Justin, you're number 4.
Okay, so this isn't a new movie, but it's a new movie to me. So Greg tricked me into coming over to his house, and then he tied me down to a chair, and this sounds like very weird. It's not going to. And then he forced me to watch Big Trouble in Little China.
Yes.
I had never seen that movie before. And I don't know how I feel about it because apparently it's a comedy, but I just don't think it was meant to be a comedy. I think it was just bad, and they're like, let's rebrand this as a comedy.
It's intentional comedy. Like Army of Darkness is an intentional comedy.
I was just so I appreciate the fact that if I would have seen that as a young lad, I would have probably had some nostalgia over it and I would have loved it. But seeing it as an adult, I'm like, I don't get it. It's weird. It's weird stuff.
So classic. Yeah. I love it.
I know.
See, it is classic, but seeing it in my mid-30s, it can't become a classic at that age.
See, this is another one we're gonna have to do this one for the show too to have a protracted discussion of it. I'm pretty sure our listeners would love to hear you squirm for 45 minutes.
It'll just be me getting ganged up on. I don't want that.
This is one of those movies that did not do well in the theaters, but became a cult classic, legendary movie. I gotta believe that's just the legend of Kurt Russell is the main. He is amazing in that movie. Amazing as you could be to pull off a fantasy hallucinated type hero legend story. It was amazing. But it does not hit on the same nerve for someone who's in their 30s watching it for the first time, I guess.
I will say the reason it's even on my list is because I really like 80s movies. They're done so well. I love the use of practical effects. Everything just feels so. I think I talked about this a little bit when we did Back to the Future, but I like the gritty, realistic feel of those 80s movies. So I did enjoy that aspect of it, and I don't know, something about the jeans makes me nostalgic. The way people wear jeans in 80s movies, I'm just like, simpler times. I remember those. Yeah.
A lot of things in the 80s that were.
It's a weird movie, though.
Yes. Yes, it is. Corey, you're number 4.
My number 4. Oh, man, this is tough. All right, I'm going to go with number 4, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning, Part 1. Again, trying to stay away from spoilers.
I knew that
Trying
was
to
coming back
ignore
up
movie
again.
posters and not reading and paying attention, and just apparently my brain not even seeing on the ticket where it said Part 1.
It says Part 1.
I get to the end of Tom Cruise, and I'm like, Tommy, you're doing awesome. I'm loving the show. And then, bam, to be continued. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because I was, again, crushed. So, one, if you try and stay spoilers free, you end up getting like mad. That's my takeaway from the summer. I can't stay spoiler free. I have to look at spoilers and things, so I know this, because I would not have gone opening night again if I'd known I had a year to wait for the second one.
Corey, I think the lesson we're learning here is that you're the problem. Like,
I think it's me.
you need to look into the movie more.
I think I have a problem. I think this Mission Impossible was great. I think it's a little more predictable for me because I can kind of formulate. I see where they're going with this. I'll say that this is kind of a crossover between Ben Affleck's movie Paycheck, which was a great movie. I loved it. Lesser known, but I think it was a fantastic movie. And then a little bit of AI staying current with the times type thing. So iRobot, I guess, in some sense. You know, there's an AI part and movie Paycheck for what's going on, I think, and how it's wrapping up. I will say, I do think Tommy had it all wrapped up in the end. I think he knew exactly what to do and what was going on. So when the movie ends, I think I got a pretty good beat on where it's going. So it's a little more predictable than I think. The Ghost Protocol one was not as predictable for me. Henry Cavill turning at the end broke my heart, but absolutely,
And Fallout, yeah.
caught me off guard. Whereas this one, I don't think there's anything on here that's really getting by me.
All right. I'm going to talk about that one a little bit, but my number 4, and Justin's not going to like this, but my number 4 is The Flash. Which I know Justin saw that the second time I saw it. Justin saw it. He had some issues with that.
Many issues.
The only thing I can say that I did not like about the movie is some of the unfinished CGI. That is it. Because I love the fact that the Justice League is a thing in this movie.
Yes.
That it exists at the beginning. That this is, and we talked about this in our last episode about Zack Snyder's Justice League, that this was going to be the closest thing to a sequel we would ever get to that. And it essentially was. The first 15 minutes or so is, hey, this is the fallout of the Justice League. It's formed, and this is how they operate. And we get to see, Barry get called into action. We see Batman in action. Wonder Woman shows up. And then we have, which I think is a really interesting story about learning to let go and learning that you can't fix everything. I think that's a really interesting concept. That I think it's interesting that Barry kind of gets some self-reflection in there. He's the scene where he finds out or makes a comment about how annoying his younger self is I think is pretty great. Of course, we get Michael Keaton back as Batman. And then, the ending is interesting because it doesn't, it ends poorly several times. And so that he has to make that decision to let go. And then ultimately he doesn't learn the lesson and still screws it up. So yeah. I enjoyed it. I see Justin just chomping at the bit to say so many negative things. Why can't we have good things, Justin? Why?
Because they're bad. We can't have good things if they're bad. And I kind of take issue with you saying that the CGI was unfinished. It was finished in like the year 2001 when the PlayStation 2 came out. Like that's the graphics that were in that movie. It was spicy. So bad. So bad.
The graphics were incredible.
Corey,
I thought his running through time and everything that was set up, I thought it was amazing. It was viewed from a lens of time travel.
No.
Here's the problem. It was very comic booky. It was very comic booky. And everybody says, if I don't get the comic book, then I'm disappointed. Then you finally do get the comic book, and then you say it's the PlayStation graphics. No. It's terrible.
No.
Corey, he liked She-Hulk, so I mean...
No.
Oh.
I mean,
Yeah.
Hang on.
Come on.
Hang on. If I hear the excuse that the graphics were bad intentionally because it was part of like his time travel, if I hear that again, I'm gonna like throat punch a baby. a bad CGI baby,
and then
if I hear
stick
that.
it in a
You know
microwave.
what? If we ever blow this up,
Because-
that is becoming a T-shirt right there.
Throat punch a baby.
So the bad CGI was not just while he was running; like it was all the time. It was so.
Hey, why are you
bad.
just trashing? This is my pick. You didn't like it. It's
I
okay.
thought it was incredible. You know what? I will say this. Here we go. Michael Keaton coming back to as Batman was great. A little frosting on the cake. But the thing they had to do, and they knew they had to give him a Ben Affleck warehouse scene. Because his warehouse scene was basically a way to say it's no Batman is standing right now unless they have a warehouse scene like that where we show Batman as the Batman. The not just he's throaty, Batman, but like the whole I can kick butt and make people fear me, and no matter what age, I'm still Batman.
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely stunning, his little scene, and I thought it was great to do that.
Well, and my takeaway from that too is that Andy Muschietti has now been tapped. The director of The Flash has been tapped to do Batman: Brave and the Bold for James Gunn in the DCU. So we've seen what he can do with Batman, and that makes me excited for what he's going to do moving forward with Batman. As this kind of a sneak preview.
Yeah. Justin,
why don't you talk about? Let's move on to something happy. You're number 3, Justin. Just let me have the Flash. Just let me have it.
And
I don't
thank
wanna be a
you,
part of this
Nicolas
podcast
Cage,
anymore.
Superman, getting a cameo in there, right?
What, Craig?
Fighting a
Whatever you're
giant
paying me,
spider.
I want you to double it if I'm going to be on here anymore.
What's that?
Whatever you're paying me, I want you to double it. Otherwise, I'm not going to be on this podcast.
I'll triple
2
it.
times 0 is okay. What's your number 3, Justin?
No, I'm not moving on from Flash yet. If we're gonna talk about Ben Affleck, we need to talk about the absolute monstrosity that was his costume, and then the lines that he had. Just you can tell Ben Affleck, that scene where he's standing there on the bridge with his costume that looks like, I don't know, it looks like a preschool play toy. Like he looks uncomfortable. He looks like he knows he looks like an idiot. Oh, that costume was so
okay. I
bad.
give you this.
And Michael Keaton was good. Michael Keaton did a great job. I am sad that they wasted a return of Michael Keaton in such a terrible movie, though. It makes me mad.
Okay.
I will say Ben Affleck's costume was dicey. I think it was supposed to be so he could be dragged on the ground like metallic.
Yeah, that's what I get too. Yeah,
like made out of adamantium or something, so he doesn't get hurt. And he knew that because Batman's a detective kind of thing. But I don't think this was Ben Affleck's best view of him as Batfleck. I mean, he has been so amazing.
Yeah, he's been so great.
He definitely was a little bit timid, and the whole lasso thing kind of made him wimpier. But
it's too
lasso
punchy. Come on, it's Wonder Woman's lasso.
Yeah, but they took that part out in Snyder's Justice League where Aquaman did that, and then they just turn around and do it to Batman. All
it
over
had
again.
never been there.
I will say this:
Whedon tried to add that in.
I didn't hear if you said it.
It's not part of the original.
The Flash's suit. Did you like the Flash suit? I thought that was amazing.
I like the Flash's suit.
I thought the Flash suit was fine. It was. Craig, feel free to edit this out if you need to. Below the waist, it was a little like, wow, that is just like staring you right in the face, isn't it? little tight.
It was a little weird. Yeah, there were certain elements of it that
they could have Ken-dolled that just a little bit.
I thought it was really good towards DC's Injustice level costumes. I thought it was really good, the Flash costume.
And then they make that big point at the beginning that he has to like keep his energy levels up. Like that's the whole thing when he's like trying to save those terrible PlayStation 2 babies. But then they never revisit that at all. Like that is that's not a plot point in any way, shape, or form.
It happens.
I was also super excited for them to include Zod and that whole thing again because I loved that movie with Zod in it.
Man of Steel,
thank you.
Yeah.
So I was excited for them to do that, and then I just feel like they didn't do it super well. Like that part was all right. That's a minor complaint. Oh man, I don't remember all my complaints now, but I remember being in the movie theater.
Autopsy now. It's transferred to Justin, tell me something good. Tell me that you saw something good that you liked for number 3. You didn't like The Flash. It's okay.
I just don't think I'm ready to move on right now. I'm sorry, Corey. What were you going to say?
Well, I was just going to say that the Flash saving the baby scene I thought was good. I thought, I mean, if I'm going, that's like a solid 8.5 out of 10. I thought, I know the CGI and the babies was a little weird, but I thought the premise of that and what he was doing was pretty funny. The dog, all that aspect, the humor. But I still say I'm going to go down and say the number one top speedster scene of all time would have to go to Quicksilver in the X-Men movie one.
Yeah.
That one. The Flash looked like they were trying to copy that a little bit, and it just didn't. It doesn't quite hit the same because
you're talking Days of Future Past, right?
Yes, that one.
Yeah,
where
The
in the
kitchen
Pentagon.
sing.
In the
That
Pentagon.
That was absolutely incredible.
Okay.
No, not the Pentagon one. No, the
Yeah,
one
no,
where he goes into the school and he saves the school.
Oh, yeah. See, I'd go with the Pentagon one.
Yeah.
Really?
Jim Croce eats him in a bottle. Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
That one was good.
The first one.
They were both good, but I like the Pentagon more, I think.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Are we done with the Flash?
Yes, we are.
We can be done with
I
the
know
Flash.
Justin's done with the Flash. Okay. What's your number 3?
Number 3, and I'm not going to get political here, but I saw the Barbie movie, and I really liked the Barbie movie. I thought it was a good movie, and I honestly probably wouldn't have gone, except for, and I can say this because none of them listen to this podcast. I have one very conservative friend and one very liberal friend, and they asked me to go, and I was like, I would love to see that movie with you two and watch the aftermath of them just duking it out afterwards. And it did not disappoint. I was very happy.
It did not disappoint. Were there
Yeah,
sparks
I just saved my popcorn from the movie
There
and
you
then
go.
just listened to their conversation about how good / terrible it was. It was awesome.
Well, you told me you thought it was funny.
It was
and that's
funny.
what worked for you.
I thought Ryan Gosling was very funny. Had some pretty good one-liners. Maybe I'm just super ignorant, but I didn't see what all the fuss was about on either side.
You didn't hear the America Ferrara speech, the 5-minute like this is how rough we have it speech. You somehow missed that.
But at the end
you
of the
go,
movie,
girl.
Hey, you know what? If you wanted to be spicy, it was your chance to be spicy was at Flash. We're done with spicy.
No.
Craig.
That was that had no agenda. That was just trying to make money. This one, this one had an agenda.
But at the end of this one, they determined that the best society is one that is ran by both men and women. I thought
really.
That was the moral.
How do you get that? Because they didn't even get a Supreme Court justice. They barely got like maybe a circuit court judge.
The men.
Yeah.
Well,
it was not split up evenly at the end. It went right back to the beginning with minor tweak.
No, because here's what happened is when Ken asked the Barbie to be on the Supreme Court, she herself was a Supreme Court justice, and Supreme Court justices cannot appoint Supreme Court justices.
Really?
The president appoints Supreme Court justices. So why
didn't the president Barbie appoint some men Supreme Court justices?
It was in a deleted scene, Craig. Everyone knows that.
Well, I saw it. I did not think it was funny. I thought it was lame and cringy. But I will say that I thought Ryan Gosling was amazing. I thought that what he sold out to what he did and just kicked ass. I thought that he was great in it. I will say that. But yeah, that's all I have to say. But I did enjoy it. I thought it was not funny, and I didn't really like the messaging. Yeah, I didn't want to go too far into it because I don't want to. I know some of our listeners thoroughly enjoyed it, and that's totally fine. If it worked for you, awesome. It didn't work for me.
I also went in with the mindset of, I was trying to stay middle of the road so I could listen to my friends duke it out.
I know what you're talking about.
Well, but my mindset was also, is this appropriate for my 9-year-old daughter? And
sure.
No, the answer is no. It was not.
I think that's a good answer, honestly.
Yeah.
Corey, did you have a number 3 that we haven't talked about yet?
No, my number 3 was The Flash, and my number 2 was Dial of Destiny, which we've talked about. So I'm going to hang around for the number 1, and I'm just going to comment on your 3s and 2s.
Yeah. So my number 3 was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I did know that it was going to be a 2-parter, and so I kept waiting for I'd heard like it's basically an end on a cliffhanger, and I didn't actually feel knowing that it was going to end on a cliffhanger. I didn't really feel like it did. It felt like it wrapped up enough. I mean, people say Empire Strikes Back is a cliffhanger, which, yeah, I guess so. But it also kind of has a natural end to it. I felt like this one did too. It clearly set up what the next movie is going to be. You know, like it should be able to just jump right in for the third part. But I didn't feel like this was abrupt. And I really liked the twist at the end. I really liked the Who's Spider-Man thing when he went to the wrong universe. I thought that was fantastic. I thought the animation was great. All the cameos. I would. I need to see that again, and I need to be able to pause the movie because they kept showing up on the screen. It's this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. I'm like, slow down. There's too much. Yeah. I loved the fact that Donald Glover was in it. Because it's always great to see Donald Glover, but to see that he's actually reprising his role from Homecoming was really cool. So it was fun. It was like what you want when you go to the movies.
I love the reference to Tom Holland and the Wizard, or to Doctor Strange that they made. That was a great nod. And in my head, I'm trying to sort out: are they really cartoons, or are they acknowledging? I don't know, because then they had one of those characters which was an actual person. Who was that?
Yeah, that's Donald Glover. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Donald Glover was in there.
Yeah,
and so it was kind of threw me off a little bit. So
it's all the same. It's just a different universe. It's a live action universe. They're all connected.
Okay,
somehow.
The whole
Spider-Man we also saw
Get Him thing was fantastic. That Inside the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. I mean, because we saw Uncle Ben and we saw stuff from like 2002 Spider-Man too, right?
Yeah.
Andrew Garfield was in it. So yeah, it's all different. It all counts. It's all different variations, different universes.
Yeah, between this and No Way Home, Spider-Man's really having a moment in terms of nostalgia and bringing bits of him back and kind of.
I'm going to use this. I'm going to use this moment to say yes. No Way Home was absolutely the top Spider-Man of all time. That was a great movie. All three Spider-Man in one universe. I absolutely love that movie. I can watch those scenes when they're fighting at the end over and over. Every time it pops up like on a TikTok feed or something, I'm like, oh, I got to watch this. Because I thought just the three of those guys together. I could easily see how they could have wrote Miles Morales into that movie. They should have. I honestly think they should have.
He's coming. He's coming. He'll be
coming.
He's got his own stuff.
All they had to do was Ned had to say, oh, that's just Peter Parker. We need to find Spider-Man. Find me Spider-Man. And then boom, right there, Miles Morales.
See, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit though, because I think this is one of the few times that Sony has actually slow played things in the right way, because they did try to rush things with Garfield and like we got a Sinister Six movie, we got all this stuff, and they made lots of weird decisions with Morbius and what's the new one, Craven, and all this stuff. Yeah. But they have the Miles Morales movies. They're animated, so he's getting to kind of just breathe on his own. I think that's a smart way to go. He'll get his 3 animated movies, and I think after that point, it would make a lot more sense to bring him in live action. You've already got kind of a reestablished fan base. So I think it's smart that they haven't put him in twice.
I'm thinking the next Venom's either going to be in Miles Morales universe. Venom 3 is going to be Miles Morales, or it's going to be Andrew Garfield going to get another nod.
Why not both?
Aren't we lucky though that we live in a timeline where all 3 live-action Spider-Men have just been fantastic?
Yes.
I absolutely love all 3.
Yeah.
All 3. And the cartoon Miles Morales.
Like for different reasons. They all kind of showcase different sides of Spider-Man and Peter Parker. And
yes.
I know there's some criticisms for Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker, but I think overall, like all of them,
they're false.
Just really well. No, I love Andrew Garfield. He is my favorite all-around Spider-Man.
He does seem to be the only one that really gets the flack thrown at him, though.
I think that's the beauty of this Spider-Verse.
Feige was
the beauty of this Spider-Verse right here, like Across the Spider-Verse, which, okay, Craig, you've got it as your number 3 or number 2 here, is that it showcases all the canon events. There are canon events that every Spider-Man
that was a cool bit too.
Have. However, they're all different, and they have some nuances that are very different in their costumes, their designs, their life, their story, who they fall in love with. All of this stuff is different. That's just, kind of there. But this is canon event, and you can't interrupt a canon event. And so I think the same thing, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, and whoever Miles Morales is going to be in a live action, there's canon events, but they all have brought something incredible to the table.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, number 2. Justin, you have a number 2 one that we haven't talked about or something that you want to add?
No, we've kind of hit all of mine. Spider-Man was going to be my number 1. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be my list.
Corey, do you have another one?
All right.
One we haven't talked about yet?
No, I've got some honorable mentions, and there's one epic one that's in the honorable mention that I do not want to mention in my top 5 because I don't want it to be confused as being in my top 5.
Okay.
So I'm just going to go straight to my number 1. How about that?
Okay. Well, I have my number 2.
Oh gosh, darn it! Sorry, Craig. Number 2.
No, that's fine. My number 2 is Oppenheimer. Now, did you guys see Oppenheimer?
I have not seen Oppenheimer.
Haven't seen it yet. Okay. Well, I love Christopher Nolan. I think I'm on record pretty firmly on this show as being a huge Christopher Nolan guy. It's very Christopher Nolan.
Does anyone not like Christopher Nolan? Like, is that an opinion anywhere?
I think there are some. There's some people that criticize the dialogue and the way that some of the, they don't like the way female characters are drawn or whatnot. I've heard little nitpicks here and there. The only thing I will say I didn't like about this movie, I'll just get to that first, is like the random sex scenes. Like it's completely unnecessary. The character that Florence Pugh plays is really important to the movie, and I get kind of the reasoning behind using her in that particular way. But it just felt weird, especially in Nolan movies, because that's just something he's never really done. The only other nudity in my recollection that he had was in Insomnia, and it's a corpse on an autopsy table. That being said, the performances in this film are fantastic. Downey is unrecognizable. He's great. Matt Damon is great, and like really one of the few that brings any levity, which you need in some Nolan movies because they're pretty heavy. And this is, it's 3 hours about the creation of the nuclear bomb, so you gotta have some levity there. Florence Pugh is great, and Cillian Murphy is fantastic. Gary Oldman was in this movie, and I didn't know it. I think I'd read that his name was in it. He plays Truman, and I did not recognize that it was him. Like he just vanishes into those roles, in some of these roles, in such a way.
Gary Oldman is really good at that.
Yeah,
Gary Oldman is amazing for that.
Yeah, I will fight anybody that's like Daniel Day-Lewis is like my favorite actor, I think, of all time. But I still know that it's him.
Yeah,
he's like I'm watching it and I can kind of meta go, oh, okay, that's him doing this and that's awesome, and I can kind of see the wheels turning. Oldman, he just completely vanishes into some of these roles. Well, I literally didn't know that it was him.
Oldman was Sirius Black until like 2 or 3 years ago. It's like, what?
Yeah. That was Gary Oldman?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
And James Gordon at the same time. Yeah.
The amount of movies and characters he's played shows you how great he is, that he be in this movie. I mean, this is a star-studded movie.
But also, Emily Blunt is in it. She's fantastic. The thing I thought was really interesting was that Oppenheimer he's not a good guy. Like he's a brilliant guy and he's a very important guy, but this is not a sentimental portrayal of his life. Like he had some really strong communist leans at the beginning, and then he's a womanizer kind of throughout. And it's not, you don't look at it and go, oh, okay, he's a hero. You go look at it, he's a very flawed, three-dimensional guy. And I think that is kind of an interesting thing that no one really hasn't necessarily done. He's kind of more plot-driven. His movies are kind of more plot-driven than they are character-driven. So that I thought was interesting that you would be that bold to be like, yep, here's this guy, warts and all.
The explosion scene, Craig, would you rank that? Was it amazing? Over the top?
Yeah, see it, guys, see it in the theater if you can.
Really?
Plan ahead because it's 3 hours, but it is something to behold and not CGI. So I'd love to see the making of that when that comes out, when the disc comes out. But it is gripping. It's 3 hours and it's not like, oh my gosh, is this over yet? It moves quite along. And there's a lot of things with flashbacks. It's not told in a linear fashion like a lot of Nolan stuff is. And then some of it's in black and white, some of it's in color. And I read some of the reasoning behind that. Well, check this out. But the reasoning behind it is that Nolan wrote the script in first person. So when it's from Oppenheimer's point of view, it's in color. But if it's third person or from somebody else's point of view, those are the scenes that are in black and white. So I need to see it again. I read that after I'd seen the movie, so I need to see it again just to kind of see how that lines up and why those choices are made. But that'll be a fascinating one for us to do on the show for sure.
Now we should probably warn Corey that Oppenheimer is a part 1, part 2.
Warn me what?
Oppenheimer, it's just Oppenheimer part 1. You know.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it ends.
There's a
That is
sequel?
false.
There's a sequel to it. I was told I need to wear sunscreen.
Yeah,
for
you're living the
explosion
sequel,
scene,
Corey. We're the sequel.
Yeah. The Cold War is the sequel, Corey.
I have
Yeah,
a fan
there you go.
theory about Oppenheimer.
Oh, jeez.
It's
com-
do fan theories on
it's coming
historical
back.
movies.
I got my fan theories.
Well, I mean, there was some of that. He was working for the Russians the whole time. That'd be fancy.
There's my fan theory.
There you go.
Well, that's just called a conspiracy. That's different.
Okay, so Corey, I think you go ahead. You can go ahead and drop your number 1 at this point.
All right,
I'm
my number
just-
1. And I
Yeah.
don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody that knows me. And I'm prepared to duke anybody. I'm prepared to punch a baby. If is that what you said, Justin?
Throw a punch, baby.
Yeah.
Anyone can
if you
punch
disagree
you
with me.
hit into the throat. Have you seen the throats? They're not very big.
But they're tough. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts.
That's his number 1.
That's my number 1 for the summer. Listen.
Tell us why, Corey.
Transformers for me, and I'm going to explain this so that everybody can understand, because we all have our fan favorites. This show that you are loyal to. I am loyal to the brand no matter what, and I'm on board with it. And so they will get my dollars in the theaters for support every single time. From the Bayverse down to the Bumblebee movie to this one, I feel like they're getting better. Slipping away from Michael Bay at the end. Michael Bay did a great job, I think, early on. At the end, he kind of started to lose a little bit in the stories. I thought his last story, the night one, was not bad. I thought where they were going with it, was set up well. But I think Rise of the Beast was a great one. And here's the secret. Why? The humans were not a huge part of the movie. The main characters were the Transformers and them fighting and doing things. And the Beasts, the Rise of the Beasts. It was the humans were secondary characters, not main characters. And I mean, they were in there a lot, but it was always with a Transformer for something. So it was great. I think it sets up a great sequel to come up with a G.I. Joe crossover. That's just a nod to all the fans. The story I thought was good. It brought in Unicron. They left it definitely to where they could say, okay, we join the Bayverse if we have nothing else that we ever get to make. Or we have more stories we can go and we separate into our own universe. So,
was this in the same universe as the Bumblebee movie?
Yes. So
Okay.
technically, it's in the same universe. You could argue that it's a standalone, but I think it's in the same one. And then I will say that the Unicron part that they've got, I think, could set up such a great movie. Just they have to separate from the Snyderverse. You just have to call it separate and just
the
diverge
Bayverse.
from it. Just do
It's
it.
already different from the Snyderverse.
Oh, did I say
know what you're saying.
Snyderverse? Oh my gosh, I'm so stuck in my verse.
Snyder's on the brain.
I kind of
Yeah.
want to see Optimus Prime fight.
And I will say this:
Superman
the one
now.
thing about this movie
Me
that
too.
my one complaint, there's a deleted scene that they actually had almost finished of Optimus Prime fighting a bus, which is why he's in the parking lot in the very beginning. On that rainy night, he's walking through
Yep.
there. There's a bus that he fights in there. It's a Decepticon, and it's amazing because it's a vicious fight, and it was mostly done CGI wise, to where if that had been in the movie, it would have been legendary. But the Optimus Prime has to take out the guy, and I guess they didn't want him to see him that cruel kind of thing, like, executioner style. But it was fantastic. I loved it. Every Transformer movie I'm going to put in the top of my list, just so you know.
Okay. Well, I saw it, and there is one line, Justin, that mentions indirectly the Bumblebee movie. Prime says something like, "I know a human was kind to you once," or whatever, and like that's all that is.
Oh.
Literally, that's the only. Yeah, it's not even that girl was nice to you. It's
So
not
that
even
could be anyone, anywhere.
It could be.
Yeah.
I think it's meant very much to be a reference to that, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit more leading into from that, and also leading into the Michael Bay movies. But I think they're kind of hedging their bets on whether or not they're gonna do that. It's kind of like the X-Men movies, where it's like kind of fits, but it also doesn't at all.
Yeah, it fits if you want it to, but not really.
And I'm going to tell you, Pete Davidson as the Flash was amazing. I thought he absolutely nailed it. I've often thought Pete Davidson was kind of annoying to me, but in
As
this
what?
movie. I thought he was kind of annoying in
As
some of the
Mirage,
other things I've seen him on Saturday Night Live and stuff. And like, he's good. He's funny in certain like roles and things like that. You get him in the right time. And with how much he was in this movie, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm not going to like this. But no, he did a great job. He did a great job. Mirage was fantastic. I love they did a little throwback. Everybody complained because Mirage was not the Formula One car that he was in the 80s cartoon. Again, just because it fit in the 80s cartoon doesn't mean it fits in the real life. But he did a little, I can change it in any car. And he became an old G1 Lambo that they used in the 80s cartoons. And he became the actual Formula One car, Mirage, from the 80s cartoon, and then transformed back to the Porsche. So it fit well. It was kind of I can do what I want. And just a nod to say, here you go.
Okay. And to bring it full circle, Pete Davidson was in the Snyderverse because he's in the Suicide Squad briefly.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he's Blackguard. He's the traitor guy that gets them all killed on the beach. He dies like in the first 5 minutes.
Wow. I do love that movie. So, Corey, in your honor, I actually watched the 1986 Transformers cartoon movie, animated movie.
The movie with Hot Rod
over the summer. And I've just decided that it's a musical. It's like an hour and a half guitar solo. That's like all that movie is.
Yeah, it's great.
Like it kind of revs down every once in a while, but then it's right back up.
It is. I'm telling you.
It's very, very 80s.
Just an hour and a half of some guy being like, I could shred it for an hour and a half. Yeah, I can do this, guys.
Yep. My number one, and then we'll do honorable mentions. My number one is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, which is because Corey and I saw this together. It's interesting that we had very different takeaways from this. I knew it was Part 1. It's on the poster, man.
I didn't look at the poster.
This movie was, I just kept saying, this movie is so tense. Like, I just felt stressed out almost the entire movie, but like in the best possible way. It built the tension so well. And even though we knew Tom Cruise was going to drive a motorcycle off a cliff and then parachute off, the way we didn't know the context, and the way that it works in the film, I think, is fantastic. And then to follow that up with the greatest train wreck ever, and to have them have to continually just move up each train car as it progressively falls down the cliff, was one of the greatest action sequences I've ever seen.
I'm going to push back against that. I think Flash was the greatest train wreck ever.
Oh, stop.
Oh yeah.
That's the money.
Back to the well.
So 5. Yeah.
You know what? We just cut your pay in half.
Have you seen Battlefield Earth? We should watch that because that is a train wreck. I've seen far worse movies. You just haven't seen nearly enough movies.
I kind of like Battlefield.
Oh my gosh!
I really want to see Battlefield Earth.
That's
so
bad.
John Travolta, right?
I like it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
That's the end of John Travolta's career.
The premise is good. All right, so the thing about Tom Cruise, I'm going to tell you this. Like Craig, you say this all the time. Tom Cruise is the last great movie star.
Amen.
Just everything about that guy just exudes movie star. Him doing his own stunts. I swear, some of these actors, if they're in a movie with Tom Cruise, are thinking to themselves, "Man, I want a stuntman to do these things, but it's Tom Cruise. I can't."
Yeah, and he's 60, so now I have to.
So I have to do some of my own stunts, and I'm going to have to learn how to fly a helicopter. I mean, I don't know what it would be like challenging to your manhood to do a movie with Tom Cruise, because you'd be like, hold on, we got to cut because I want a stuntman, Tom. And he'd be going, oh man, shift gears and jump off and parachute down. What's the big deal? It's a mountain.
Sure. I do have to also say, speaking of fan theories, the guys at Tatooine Sons had a great episode right when this movie came out. So it's a little ways back, but it's not hard to find, where they talk about how do I put this without spoiling it for you? Haley Atwell and the way that she is connected to Tom Cruise's character, how her character and his are connected. But yeah, great. That's a good theory. And I think that holds a lot of water. I don't want to spoil it. Like, go find the episode and let's do it, because it's awesome. And it'll be something that will be revealed for sure in part 2 or number 8.
Yeah.
But good stuff.
Tom Cruise just seems to be getting better, just better. And these, and what do we got? 2 more of these on record?
At least one is almost in. I think one's is in the can, or just about. Yeah. Part 2 is, and then I think
there's one more after that.
I don't know if it's been officially announced, but we'll have to see.
Well,
does he have a running scene?
Tom and I
does he
have
run
a back channel?
Of course, he has a running scene.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, he's always running. And what's funny, you watch older Tom Cruise movies, like, because it was like the first time they really made a big deal of that was like Mission Impossible 3. But if you go back, like he's running in pretty much every movie.
He always his whole trailer is
pretty
him
much.
running.
Yeah. Because I've been watching a lot of Tom Cruise movies recently, older ones too, and he's still running through those. I'm like, okay. So honorable mentions. Just rapid fire. Anything that you didn't quite make the list.
Again,
okay.
I'm going to throw this one out there. Avatar, Way of the Water. I know that one came out a little bit earlier, but
yeah, that's a Christmas movie, Corey. Can't use
Christmas?
that.
My timelines are all mixed up. Oh my god!
It's summer, from May 1st on.
Avatar was another to be continued movie. Thank you very much.
Yes.
So there's the honorable mention there.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that sometime soon. Justin, do you have any other?
I mean, if Christmas is too far back, is 2009 too far back?
Hey, you went back to the 80s with Big Trouble in Little China.
That's true. You know what? Screw the rules.
Okay. Well, the next category is for screw the rules. This one is for this summer. A little bit of struck. See, we're working off the rust, people.
Guardians 3.
That's on my list too.
Yeah.
I didn't make my top 5, but
I haven't seen it yet. But I'm looking forward to watching it.
I have been pretty disappointed with Marvel, kind of in general, recently. I think ever since I saw Ant-Man, I was like, oh no, they're not getting better. These the glory
Quantumania?
days.
It was.
Yeah, it was. I thought the glory days were behind them, but Guardians was like surprisingly good.
And I think that's a throwback, though. I think that was basically in the can from a while back, and it's James Gunn, so he's kind of doing whatever he wants. So I think that's kind of why we got that. But
I liked it. It had a good balance of heart and humor, which I feel like Marvel has lost.
Yeah, the heart aspect. The heart. Yeah, because they can actually be sincere in certain moments, and you don't have to punctuate it with a joke.
Yeah, there were. I watched it with my wife, and there were several times where it was like a heart-wrenching moment. Mm-hmm. And I even said to her, I turned to her and I said to her, I'm like, okay, all right, they're gonna end it with a joke right here because the emotion is getting too strong. And they didn't. They let the emotion like play its way out, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I will say I saw it with my kids, and my 13-year-old daughter had a little bit of a hard time with it. She's very sensitive toward animal stuff, and so I talked to Corey about this as well. That there are some, and I don't know if they're graphic, but I think it's fairly obvious what's happening with some animal cruelty things. Like it's not exploitative or anything like that. But if you have little kids, I would say at least have that conversation with them and maybe preview it first. So Corey and I've talked about that.
Yeah, it was a little bit jarring in parts. Like it was a little graphics, not the right word. Like one severity level down from the word graphic, whatever that might be. But it was a little like, oh my goodness. Oh, okay. We're gonna go with that.
Yeah, I read something that somebody said, like if you watch Guardians 1 in the context of this movie, that those conversations about him, because he has conversations with Drax, like in the bar,
he hints at it just a little bit.
That those have a lot more weight to them now. I'm not a raccoon and that kind of stuff. There's, you get to see like the first time you see like all the the surgeries that he's had and that kind of stuff. Now we kind of know how that's happened, and so there's, The only thing I didn't really like about that movie, I think, is kind of what they did with Gamora. Because and that's just a choice, that she's a different Gamora than the one we're used to. And so just having her go on that path, I'm not going to spoil since Corey hasn't seen it, as opposed to kind of bringing things back to the norm. They didn't do that. So I thought that was a choice that was different than I would have done, but that doesn't mean it's not a good choice.
I thought it was strange that Peter kept saying, "What? Like you don't remember? You don't remember?" Well, of course she doesn't remember. Those things didn't happen to her. That's right. I thought that was like, come on, Peter, you're smarter than this.
That's true. Yeah,
but it would be confusing that way. I could see where that. I mean,
it might also be realistic that way. That's true. Yeah.
Like you'd be thinking, "Oh my gosh, they just have amnesia."
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I also had Rise of the Beast on there too, which I enjoyed it. It wasn't my top 5, and honestly, I think I saw just about everything that came out this summer. I didn't see Fast 10 because it's Fast 10.
Yeah.
I might watch it at some point.
If they invited me to the premiere, I would.
Stop. So what I wanted to talk about now was just kind of rapid fire movies that you finally saw. And Justin kind of started us off with Big Trouble in Little China, which, yes, is supposed to be a comedy. It's hilarious and it's amazing. It's fantastic. But anything else that you finally got around to watching during summer break?
I'm going to throw one out. Our movie theater does free movies during the summer for kids. And so, my kids it always plays movies that were in the last couple years for free, like Shazam. Shazam 2 was one of the movies, which I thought was, kind of nice. I mean, that's a free show to watch that recent. So I went with the kids on one of the free days where we went to the theater for free and watched Tom and Jerry. And I'm going to tell you, I absolutely enjoyed it. It was a very loud theater with kids talking the whole time and have no movie etiquette whatsoever. But it was great. It was a blend of animation, live action. I thought it was great. Tom and Jerry have to work together to kind of save the day at the end, and it's totally cheesy, completely unrealistic, and just hokey. But if you're sitting there with a 6-year-old, you're going to love it. So,
excellent. Justin, you have any others that you want to mention? I have a bunch that I'm just going to shoot off real fast.
Yeah, so I like to use my breaks, like winter break and summer break, and watch like franchises or trilogies or whatever it may be, just kind of like all in one sitting. By all in one sitting, I mean like consecutively, because I tend to watch movies in like 20, 30-minute chunks. But I decided to watch like the entire Terminator franchise, kind of start to finish.
Wow.
Because every time I watch that franchise, I have a different opinion about it. And the first 2 movies, as everyone I think might agree, are like super solid.
Mm-hmm.
Quality drops off at 3. But then after 3, like Dark Fate and Genesis, I don't hate them. I don't like them, but I don't hate them as much as I remember. And then Terminator Salvation is really good. I don't understand the hate for that movie. Even like I was even double checking like some reviews, and a lot of people really hate that movie. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I thought Christian Bale does a great job as John Connor. I loved just seeing everything post Judgment Day, like War Against the Machines. I thought that was really cool. I loved it. I didn't think that movie was lacking. I don't understand the hate.
Yeah, I that's okay with me. I actually like Dark Fate quite a bit. The others I can kind of take or leave, but 1 and 2 I agree 100%. Number 2 was on my sequels, like top sequels of all time list.
Yeah,
so that's good. But yeah, I think I think 3 is just trash. 3 is a retread of 2, but not done nearly as well.
3 is bad. Genesis isn't great, but I'm glad they kind of scrapped that idea. But yeah, Dark Fate I thought was just kind of a fun ride. I like the Terminator, the direction of the Terminator in that one. Like it's kind of scary again, the way he can like he has like an exoskeleton or an endoskeleton, and as well as the like liquid metal stuff going on. That was cool.
Yeah, and you get Sarah Connor back, which is nice.
You get Sarah Connor back, yeah.
Any others that you want to talk about before I'm going to just shoot off? I got like 5.
I got one more.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
I got one more show that I finally got around to watching is Superman and Lois, CW season 3. And I'm going to tell you, I absolutely adore the show. It's very soap opera. It's got some, it's kind of like Smallville where it's got some drama in there and some soap opera type stuff, and but I would tell you CW in this movie or in the CW show for Superman and Lois is investing in the CGI. They make some excellent Superman stories. His whole family drama he's got going on, but then he also has a son who's superpowers too, and so they're doing some team up stuff. I mean, the Superman 3 season, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to tell you the way it ends. I cannot wait for season 4.
Yeah,
it was epic, as good as a movie. Again, to be continued is exactly where it left off.
That's how shows work, Corey.
That's how shows work, and it makes me mad. But season 4, I think, is they're going to be their final season. But it has been a tremendous show for them to make. I think the CW movies have all been that way. The Flash was great. Green Arrow was great. And then this one right here has been absolutely incredible. Again, towards the end of the seasons, late seasons, they start to fall off, I think. But Superman's held up. So if you're looking for a good show, get out there and watch Tyler Hoechlin. I didn't like him at first, but I think he's grown on me, and he's a high-level, great Superman show.
It's on the list. I've finished. I liked season 1, and I just need to get in. And I have a long list though. So some of the ones that were on my list that I did take care of, I watched on Keith Cower's recommendation. I watched The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yes.
With Nicolas Cage as Nicolas Cage is fantastic. I effing told you. I won't drop the F-bomb. But yeah, Pedro Pascal is great in it too. That's a really fun movie, especially if you like Nicolas Cage movies or have just, even if you don't like, if you've seen a lot of Nicolas Cage movies, which I have, the references to those are amazing. I also
loves this movie.
Yeah, yes. I finally watched Sicario, which I don't know how that slipped through the cracks. And I know there's a sequel, which I haven't watched yet. But like Benicio del Toro is fantastic. Josh Brolin's fantastic. Emily Blunt's fantastic. Just great story. I've been watching Lioness on Paramount Plus. It's the new Taylor Sheridan one. And he wrote Sicario. And so I was like, oh, let's go back and kind of find some of these other things that he's done. I finally watched Midsummer. Did you guys see that yet? I think that was because I watched Florence Pugh was in Oppenheimer. She's one of the stars of that. It's a horror movie. It's kind of like The Wicker Man a little bit, where these friends go to this isolated village in Sweden, but it turns out it's a cult and like really weird stuff happens.
Ooh.
So kind of a horror, culty, just bizarre movie. I finally watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. These are like I think that's 2019. Brad Pitt, Leonardo DiCaprio. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. It's fantastic. It's really, really good. I don't want to dig too much into that, but check it out. If you haven't watched it, watch it. Speaking of Brad Pitt, watch Bullet Train. I feel like I'm getting on. I got to find everything by this actor. Kind of did that. Bullet Train. Highly, highly recommend Bullet Train.
We did John Wick because of what you said about it.
Yep. So, one of the co-directors of John Wick is the director of this, and it's kind of John Wick. It's kind of Tarantino. It's quirky like that, but just amazing action. It's funny. Just random cameos. Have you seen it, Justin?
I have. It's just a good time. Like it's
just fun.
Just fun. Yeah.
Just fun. And then not fun. My last one I'll mention, A Clockwork Orange. I watched that. Stanley Kubrick. Just bizarre, just so weird. I'd never seen, but I heard about it, and there's certain things that just keep showing up in modern movies that are influenced by Kubrick movies, and so that was one I watched, and I didn't really enjoy it, but I pushed through and watched it. So, but it was interesting seeing Malcolm McDowell young. That was probably the most interesting thing because I've only seen him as old. I'd recently watched Star Trek Generations with my son, and he's the bad guy in that. And I've just always seen him with white hair, so to see him with blonde hair was trippy. But yeah, I don't recommend it, but I watched it. So, yeah,
that's a good list.
And some other things. I think. I watched 3 Days of the Condor the other day too. Didn't like that either. But I mentioned this to some guys at lunch the other day, or at training. It was at the training. Teacher training, that if you've seen Winter Soldier, there's some heavy like that. Winter Soldier, the Marvel movie is an homage in many ways to that film. So that's why Robert Redford's in Winter Soldier. That's why they had him in there. So final thoughts on this summer's movies, or just catching up on films, anything, just coming back. What do you guys think?
I feel like post-pandemic, we've had quite the lull with movies. There hasn't really been anything too amazing, and there was a big question of, are movie theaters going to stick around? Is everything going to go on streaming? What is the relationship between movie theaters and streaming? And then it was just nice this summer to have like, oh my goodness, there are a lot of blockbusters in theaters. Theaters are not dead, and movies are not dead. Even if there's a writer's strike, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Love that. I'm glad you brought that up. Corey, did you have anything you wanted to say?
Well, I think it's all the movies and everything we watch and the depth of stuff that we like and don't like, or make fun of and don't make fun of on this show. I think it just showcases that go watch good movies, look for good storylines, and have a good time, good conversation talking about them. Whether you like them or don't like them, it's a good time to talk with your friends about stuff. And pretty soon you find out you like certain things, and you can tell what movies are, like the connections between them and how they work. And I don't know. I think it was just a good summer of shows for me. I was pleased with a lot of them, and some of them I even said, it's not the best story, but it's a great arc or a great continuance, and so I think it's fun to get on a show like this and talk about it and get other people's input too, because it ends up making good shows better and sometimes bad shows pretty good, decent. So,
but not the Flash.
I was going to praise you too, Justin. I was going to say, I really like what you said, though. It was interesting to see there are more than one movie at the theater that I want to go see. I actually kind of want to plan my summer out a little bit to figure out when am I going to get to see all these films and make a point of doing that where it hasn't been that way for the last couple summers. So it was nice to have that again as this is a thing we can go do. Cause I love going to the movies, and if it's for event movies usually. So it was nice to have those options this summer. So as we close, we just want to say thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Twitter and Facebook, email us at readingbetweenreels@gmail.com, or use the SpeakPipe app on our website. If you enjoyed the show, please tell a friend and support us by writing a review on your favorite podcast catcher. Our next episode will be a discussion of our most anticipated movies scheduled for this upcoming 2023-2024 school year. Send us an email or voicemail about your most anticipated movies, and we'll share it on the next episode.